Welcome. Welcome to today's episode of Carren's Couch. Now, pay attention, parents. If you have kids, and if you have kids that are currently going through the schooling system, today's show is going to be an eye-opener for you. We have had lots of conversations on Facebook, and if you've been following us on Facebook, chances are you'll have probably even been involved in the threads and the comments. But one of the things that comes up quite frequently on Facebook and through our social media is, I guess, the disconnect that's currently occurring, or perhaps it's been occurring for a long time, but we're just becoming more aware of it, is the disconnect in our education system. Now, we've got kids going through school, learning all the general and usual academic trainings. But when our kids go out into the real world, there's a disconnect in comparison to what our curriculum teaches them and what they actually need in order to be successful. So, of course, this conversation has been going around for a while between me and some really dear friends, and one of them in particular is the beautiful Isabella Carter. Now, she's the founder of an organisation called Barefoot and Connected. So as Isabella and I were talking, we decided that it was probably a good idea to talk about education and our kids on Carren's Couch, to bring some awareness to the subject, but also to start to question, what on earth are we doing? When we do some research, we find that over the last 100 years, there's been very little change to the curriculum inside of our education system. Yet we've changed and we've evolved as humans. And what we need in the real world out there has also changed. So how come our education system isn't quite matching up and keeping up? And that, again, is just like the conversations that we've had. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but it's just certainly a perception. So I thought we'd check it out and see. Is that real? Is that true? And what else can we possibly be doing for our kids? So Isabella put me in contact with our next guest. Now, I have to say to you, ladies, hang on to your hats because he's a bit of a honey. This one is a bit of a hottie. So hang on to your hats because he's about to come on full screen. Are you ready? Take a big, deep breath. I have got the CEO of an organisation by the name of Praxis coming all the way to us from the United States, who's developed a really extraordinary, I guess it's an entrepreneurial training program for kids and our youth. But I'm not going to go too far. I'm going to let him tell you all about it. So please help me welcome to the couch the very spunky T.K Coleman. Thank you for joining us.
Cheers. It's good to be here, Carren.
See, ladies, I told you. Did I tell you? Am I right? I was right. Very good looking.
Well, I got to say, so I'm the education director for Praxis. The actual CEO is my good friend, Isaac Morehouse. And that's the guy that the ladies want to see. I mean, you see that guy, oh man, he's something.
Oh, don't sell yourself too short, sunshine. So, TK,
I'll take it.
Thanks so much for joining us on the show today. I'm really keen to talk to you about your view of the current education system and what Praxis is all about in terms of preparing our youth for a more, I guess, a more successful future. Tell us about how you came up with Praxis.
Sure. So I'll start by explaining a little bit about what Praxis is and what the goal is, and then we can sort of talk about the origin of the idea a bit and my philosophy of education and what's wrong with the educational system. So Praxis is what I described as an academically infused apprenticeship. It's a 10-month program, and the way the program works is we pair up participants with a business in an area of their choice based on their interest, based on the skills they want to develop, based on where they do and don't want to live. And they work 30 hours a week with that business, being mentored by the owner, mentored by other people who work at the business, creating projects that actually help increase value for the business they're working at, developing a portfolio for their own project that they're creating. And the goal there is for them to learn how to think entrepreneurially by actually doing entrepreneurial work. They also spend on average about 10 hours a week working through an academic curriculum where they study things like philosophy, history and culture, economics, business, entrepreneurship, and life skills. But that's the technical stuff. That's the boring stuff. As far as the mission is concerned, I would say that my mission personally is to help convince as many people as I can that they have the permission and the power to be the predominant creative forces in their own lives, to help them to stop arguing for their limitations and to start fighting for their possibilities. Now, the way we do that, pedagogically speaking, is we try to teach our participants three things or help cultivate three attributes. One is the ability to think critically about what they want. What are the results you want to create? This sounds like a very simple question, but it's really one of the most difficult things anybody at any age can possibly do. I mean, there are so many social forces that work against us in our ability to think clearly and critically about what we want. There are lots of people who want things for us. There are things that we want versus things that we think we have the permission to ask for. And so the process gets very complicated, but it really can be very simple. In fact, I find it quite funny when people tell me things like, I don't know what I like. I don't know what I feel passionate about. I don't know what I want. And when people say that, it goes to show just how far we've been removed from the visceral nature of such knowledge. What you want is not some sort of intellectual abstract thing that you discover by engaging in high-level analytic philosophy. The knowledge of what you want is something that you have contained within your very body, within your very heart, within your very soul. If I were to give you a slice of chocolate cake or a bowl of vanilla ice cream, you wouldn't have to do a whole lot of analysis to know if you like it or not. You know what tastes good and you know what tastes bad to you. You know what you prefer and you know what you don't prefer. You know what makes you feel tapped in, tuned in, and turned on, and what fails to do all those sorts of things. But what happens is these questions of what do I like and what do I want become clouded by many different things, like what's right for me to ask for, what's realistic for me to expect. And so usually when people say things like, I don't know what I want, what that really means is I don't know how to turn it into a job, or I don't know how to make any money with it, or I know what I want, but I don't know if it's okay for me to admit this. So the first thing we want to do is help people be honest with themselves about what they want, even if it turns out to be the case that they can't have it. Because even if you can't have what you want, there's nothing healthy or constructive at all about being dishonest with yourself about what it is you really want. The second thing that we try to accomplish with our participants is helping them develop confidence that they actually have the ability to create the results that matter most to them. And there's a philosophical side to this where you have to sort of think critically about the things that matter to you, but there's also a practical side to it. And the practical side is it's only by engaging the world with your ideas and with your feelings that you actually get the kind of meaningful feedback that's necessary for self-discovery, self-awareness, and self-knowledge. You can only discover so much through navel gazing and through introspection. At some point, you have to accumulate content-rich experience so that you can have something to actually think about. So that's why we combine both the academic side and the apprenticeship side, because you really do need both. And then the third thing is we try to help our participants step out of what Robert Fritz calls the reaction response orientation, where circumstances are the driving force in your life, into the creative orientation, where intention and desire and passion are the driving forces in your life. And what we want to do is we want to produce a generation of people that can go out into the world and go beyond what Seth Godin calls the pick me mentality. Hey, here's my piece of paper. I did everything I was told to do. Can you please give me a life? Can you please make my dreams come true? We want people to take themselves seriously as forces of nature, seriously as creative forces. And we want to teach people how to pick themselves. So that's what we're in the business of doing.
You know, TK, when we were talking off air, one thing that really struck a chord with me that you said was that, you know, it doesn't matter if kids go on to become successful, extraordinary business people. It's kind of really that's the choice that they get to make once they've got the confidence and the inner knowing that that's a possibility for them to explore. The thing that I really felt was really powerful and profound was that you said, instead of teaching our kids what to learn, teach our kids to learn. Teach our kids how to learn. Teach them so that they know how to learn, and then for no matter what they decide to do as their lives expand and evolve, they know how to learn how to do that in the future. And I think that that was really powerful and really profound. And I think that certainly from the philosophy that Praxis brings to our youth, it starts to allow them to explore those possibilities that I guess are slightly masked by the time they get to you. What's the average age of children or people that you have go through your programs?
So Praxis is an alternative education and also a program that offers supplemental education for college students. So the average age is 18 to 25. Okay. But I want to follow up on something that you just said there about teaching kids how to learn. I would like to make a bit more of a fundamental point and say, What I think is important is that we teach people how to give themselves permission to be curious again, to invoke their sense of wonder again, to engage in playful activity again, because I believe that human beings innately know how to learn. But whenever we struggle to learn things, it's usually not a methodological problem. It's usually an interest problem. You only see these difficulties in people knowing how to learn when you force them to learn something that they don't care about, because the thing you're forcing them to learn has nothing to do with the results that matter most to them. You show me a kid who loves baseball and somehow he magically figures out how to memorize all the statistics of all the players, but he can't survive his math class some kind of way.
Yeah,
clearly, there's no problem with knowing how to work with numbers. There's a problem with making a connection between one's curiosities and the information that a person is being asked to learn. And I think this reveals one of the problems with the current educational system is that, for the most part, it's bureaucratic driven. Like, you take, for instance, the Common Core debate. The debate centers around, should we use Common Core or should we not? And I think this debate, as passionate as people are on both sides, it actually kind of misses the point, because it assumes that how we should educate people is based on what a group of bureaucrats decide is the best process. And then we're going to impose that process on everybody without thinking about the individual or asking the individual, what do you want? What do you feel? What are you passionate about? What works for you? Here's one thing we can be certain about with Common Core. I am absolutely certain there's some kid somewhere out there for whom it works, whether I like it or not. And I'm sure there's some kid out there somewhere for some reason who tries it and it just doesn't work for them. And I think for us to try to figure out, well, which one is going to be the right way that will make everybody do, how about we actually just start with the kids and we start teaching them with their own interests and their own passions, and we trust our natural human innate ability to teach ourselves the things that we care about, because this is what we have always done as children. In fact, I have a friend who just told me that his son, who isn't even 12 years old, wants to learn Chinese. And the reason why he wants to learn Chinese is because he's observed that everything around the house has made in China on it. And he's just curious now to know about China. Like that's what happens when you allow people permission to be curious.
I think that's so fabulous, and again, so profound. So TK, if you were to imagine a perfect schooling system to prepare our kids, what would that look like then? Because if we've got, like 10,000 kids in a school, how do we work with 10,000 individuals of what they want? What would you think would be ideal?
Yeah, well, first, I think a perfect schooling system, let's use an analogy. Can you imagine what a perfect system would be like for selling people shoes? Can you imagine creating the perfect shoe store? I think when you ask a question like that, you realize there's something fundamentally flawed about the way we approach this thing we call education. We begin by assuming that there is actually a perfect template that works for everybody. So I think if we're going to talk about a perfect schooling system, then it should be a schooling willing to sacrifice its ego in order to serve the student. In the same way that if you're in the business of selling shoes, it doesn't matter what you, the owner, think is cool. What matters is what the customers want. You are a servant to the customer. You don't get to make money unless you give that customer what he or she wants. It reminds me of this reality show. It's the one with Chef Gordon Ramsay, where he goes into these different restaurants that are run down and he tries to help build them up and make them good again. Where there was one where people would send the food back and the owner of the restaurant, he would argue with the customers about what they ought to like. So they say, I don't like this pizza. And he'd say, well, this pizza is good. And he'd give all of his arguments for why the pizza was so great. And Chef Ramsay had to explain to him. He said, hey, look, a restaurant doesn't survive because how good the chef thinks his food is. A restaurant survives because you are actually able to satisfy the needs, the desires, the preferences, and the taste of the customers. So education does not begin with the bureaucrat who thinks he knows what's best for everyone else. Education begins with the student every day, all day. What are the results that matter most to you and to you and to you and to you? And let's start there, because that's far more important than my opinions when we're talking about your education.
Man, look at you go. This is awesome. So,
can I say one more quick thing?
Go, yeah.
One interesting thing about the Praxis curriculum, and I really love this, is that we allow anything in our curriculum to be open to challenge. So if, for instance, one of the participants says, hey, I don't like this book in the history curriculum because I don't think it's related to anything I do. If they can make a case for why they shouldn't have to study that, and they can replace it with something in that same genre that they think is more practically relevant to what it is they want to do, we'll allow them to replace it. I'll study it with them. We'll test them on that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it's mind-blowing to even go there in terms of imagining if our school systems even just adopted the slightest a bit of advice that or just, like one word or one part of the advice that you've just provided there. It's mind-blowing to imagine what would happen for our kids and what would happen for our education system, because we've got all of these kids going through, the schooling system, and especially now, we've got kids coming out the other side that still can't read and write. And so the system is failing somewhere, not everywhere, but it's failing somewhere. And I think that obviously with what you guys have created with Praxis, it's perfect timing. So Praxis is based in the States, and when you're not here in Australia yet, are you?
We're not there in Australia yet, but we're looking into it. But that's all I can say at this point.
Oh, hush, hush, bit secret squirrel, I see.
but to your larger point, you're absolutely right, Carren. I mean, what kind of world would we live in if more leaders looked at it as their job to make themselves unnecessary, rather than looked at it as their job to keep their relevance for as long as they can? If I am a true leader, then my job is to point you to your own innate intelligence. In fact, that is how Socrates saw the goal of education, to help draw out what people already knew, to help cultivate that innate sense of intelligence. I think that's the real goal. Not to maintain my position of authority so I can feel, important about myself.
And TK, I think that what you've just said there is relevant right throughout all of life. I think that the relevance starts, it exists with our parenting, it exists in business, it exists in our education, it exists everywhere in life, is to help create other people to be the best that they can be, rather than to help create another job for me for another 4 years. And you look at it, even our politicians, it's the same thing. It's like this whole thread that runs through every area of the life of the masses. So I congratulate you on the stand that you guys are taking and what you're creating there with Praxis. And I tell you one thing for sure, the minute you guys make this accessible for Australians, I'm certainly going to be standing right beside you and screaming it from every rooftop, because our youth are at desperation stages in terms of what they can do for themselves and what's next in an environment where they feel they don't fit. So I absolutely commend you, and thank God for you. That's all I can say on the matter. Thank you for joining us on the show today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just saw a character recently in a movie say, "Thank God for me." So, so yeah, I'll accept that. Thanks. Hey, it's been a pleasure talking with you, and feel free to have me back anytime if you want to talk about happiness, finding a fulfilling career, or any of these things related. I may not be out there in Australia just yet, but I don't mind interacting about these ideas, because ideas are truly universal, and the pursuit of happiness, that's a universal thing. So we can talk anytime. Love your show.
Oh, TK, we are going to have you back. I promise you we'll get you back on the show as a regular. You're just absolutely brilliant. Love your energy. Thanks a million, my friend.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.
So stay tuned. Stay tuned. We've got Carren's Corner coming up next. I hope you loved TK as much as I do. I love his energy and his passion. Don't go anywhere. Welcome to Carren's Corner. Now, you're going to be so excited that you stayed tuned to the show, because I'm taking you behind the scenes a little bit. If you've noticed, my hair always looks quite fabulous when we're on the show. And let me tell you something, this takes a while. This whole get-up takes a while. And we've got experts that support us behind the scenes from an amazing organisation called ColourPop. We've got the most spectacular hairdresser who helps get our hair ready for me and everybody that's going to be on the set. And I just happen to have her standing right here next to me. So what we thought we would actually do is show you guys how you can do a quick updo with our gorgeous production assistant and business manager, Annika, how you can do a quick updo in 5 minutes so that you can get the hell out the door without having to spend hours creating a masterpiece like this. So this is Kira from Colourpop. So Kira's going to talk us through how she is going to do the quick updo with Annie. Go for it, my love. Let's see how you do it. I've got all your equipment. This is all that you need. Some bobby pins and some elastic bands. And away you go. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. So
Beautiful.
Reveal your secrets.
So all we're starting off is with a simple side swept pony. That's
Okay.
it. On either side, it doesn't matter what side.
And does your
Just
hair,
whatever you prefer.
does your hair actually have to be like really long to do
No, not
this?
at all. Probably just past shoulder length would be best.
So sort of around there?
Yes.
Yeah? That'd be the right length?
Just
Cool.
so, because when we've got our low ponytail, we're going to knot.
Right.
So you can get as many pieces as you like
You're going to actually tie the hair in a knot?
in a knot.
Just like you tie a shoelace.
In an
So-
actual knot?
Yes. So I've got the hair in a piece like this,
Let us know if she pulls your hair, love.
and I'm going to knot it through
She's tying it in an actual knot.
In a knot.
and it's very easy to get out as well. So as you can see, I'm not putting as much tension on it.
Right.
It's getting looser.
Right.
So I can pull it up. I'm going to twist it in any sorts of directions, and I'm just going to pin it.
Wow.
Just pinned.
That actually, and now that's kind of that gorgeous updo that's got that little bit of messiness to it. That little bit of...
It doesn't have to be slick. I mean, you could spend all day trying to make it nice and slick, but then again, that's hard.
Who's got all day? This is like a 5-minute... Oh, look at how fabulous that looks.
Just knocking.
Oh, how come you haven't done my hair like this?
Your hair's not that long.
I'm a little bit jealous. Oh, this looks fabulous. Annie,
And
you're going to have to
then-
go out somewhere fabulous tonight, girlfriend.
Yes. So
Yeah.
now I'm just going around the hair tie just to cover that elastic band out.
So she's tying these little knots literally around just the hairband so that
Yes.
you can't see it. And it looks so good.
And you could even do 2 knots in the same piece of hair,
Oh,
depending on how long the hair is though. So I've sectioned the hair almost in 5 areas. Just
this is
knotting.
fabulous. I'm totally intrigued. I've often seen people who've got these gorgeous hairstyles and it looks like they've just thrown it up in 5 minutes and run out the door. And I'm so envious of that because your hair looks like it's got that kind of messy look, but it looks like it's actually, you know, obviously it's taken a bit of effort. Sorry, I'm not a very good assistant, am I? I'd never make a very good hairdresser over here.
I'll teach you.
Well, I expect that you would now that I've seen this creation. You're coming over to my place.
So, and then depending on how pedantic you are about it, you could sit there all day and pin those little hairs, but that's the look I'm after, is that slick, messy.
Wow. Let's spin Annie around a little bit more so that everybody can see that little bun right on the... Oh my God, that looks fabulous. Great job. And that took you, what, 3 minutes, if that? That is so fantastic. 3 minutes to look like that. Annie, your job is to come to work like that every day, girlfriend. Okay, not going to happen perhaps. So that was really good. Kira,
Yes.
thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to get Kira back on the show, and we're also going to get Colourpop's owner on the show to do a quick makeover for us as well with a makeup. So make sure that you join us again next week on Carren's Couch, and you never know what we're going to bring to you. We like to bring you all sorts of surprises. So tune in next week on Carren's Couch. Go to our Facebook page at allthews.facebook.com/Carren's Couch. You can also post your comments on our website at allthews.carrenscouch.com. Now, for those of you guys who are our iTunes and podcast listeners, hopefully this Carren's Corner will encourage you to make your way over to the website so that you can watch the show. Because this is actually really worth it. That was so fast and it looks so fabulous. We're going to pop some still photos up on the website as well. So go and check that out. So we're going to see you here next time, same place, same station on Carren's Couch. Thanks again for tuning in. Bye for now.